Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another thing where I talk about things. Today, we're going to be talking about Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I went and I saw this recently. I've also got some other news going on. Claudia's pregnant. We went and we got an ultrasound and everything. So I was thinking about making the video today about that, but maybe next time, maybe later on. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, though, I saw the movie. I saw The Last Jedi, and I thought I would talk about that. And the thing that's weird about The Last Jedi is that although I give it an 8 out of 10, a good movie. I enjoyed myself, but the reason I give it an 8 out of 10 is because as much as I liked it, it pulled a lot of strings that a movie should pull. It was a good movie. I almost barely went to the theaters to go see it. Like, the only reason I went to go see it was because it was Star Wars. And after seeing it, I feel like I'm going to do the same thing to the next movie. They're going to be like, oh, the next one's coming out. And I'm going to be like, all right, I dragged myself out of my seat. I'll go to the theaters. I guess I got to. It's Star Wars, So it's just weird. It's just weird. I don't know if anyone else has been feeling that same way. But the first couple of Star Wars, the first two Star Wars videos that have come out post-Lucas, they felt like safe Star Wars. It's like Star Wars, but with all the things that you love about Star Wars. No risks, no whatever. Like, episodes 1 through 3 were really stupid, and they were really bad, but it was imaginative in the terrible way that it was done. I mean, like, you could tell that George Lucas was trying to create this lore and this backstory, and he was doing a terrible job, but he was coming up with all kinds of ideas anyway. And all these really stupid ideas that he had, although he didn't execute them very well, people later on went back and they did something with his ideas. Like, they took the Clone Wars stuff and the Clone Troopers, and they did cool things with, like, the video games and stuff like that. And there's a lot of that in the Star Wars universe. Like, I liked the movies when I was a kid, but I think that I got more interaction and more interest out of playing the Star Wars video games, like Jedi Knight, old video game, kind of a puzzle-based platforming shooter thing back when they still did those, and KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, got really into that. And then, of course, like Star Wars role-playing games and things like that. That whole kind of like interaction with the universe was always a lot cooler for me than, say, like Luke or Leia or any of those people were. The idea that there's just like all this sort of space out there, and there's all these things, and there's sort of like this mystical, magical thing, the Force, that you can tap into, and anyone can do it. Any of these space aliens could do it. But, the main characters are always the one that get it, because that's why they're the main characters. So, the first two movies, it felt kind of like, they didn't really get into anything new or really kind of invent anything. They just took the already well-traveled path of Star Wars and kind of like made another Star Wars movie that was quite similar to the previous Star Wars movies. So, they had the New Order, the First Order, and at this point, I'm not exactly clear on what the First Order is. When I saw the first movie, I thought that the First Order was like a splinter from the Empire, and that they really weren't very big. My impression was like they had like a planet or something like that they operated on. Because they kept making a big deal about their planet. They had this planet-killing device, and it's like, oh, they're going to shoot us with laser, oh god. And so my impression was that everything was kind of based on this planet, and it was a really big deal as to whether or not they blew up the laser. Because the Death Star was like this big, stupid, enormous thing, and so you imagine like losing that would be like if you sank a U.S. battleship, or a aircraft carrier, that is. Like, the U.S. has a bunch of aircraft carriers, but I think we have like in total, I don't know what it is, like 11 aircraft carriers or something like that. So if you sank one of them, then that's nearly like a 10% loss to our naval capacity. So, it'd be a big deal. Like, you blow up a Death Star, and that's like, oh man, this is a huge loss in terms of just resources and everything like that. But when you blow up a little planetary installation, I don't know. I don't know how expensive that was, but surely it was cheaper than a Death Star. So it felt like smaller in scale, their loss. And I thought that was the point, was that the First Order was like smaller in scale. But, jump ahead all the way to this third movie, after Rogue One, which actually had nothing to do with the first movie in the first place, so it wasn't even like a sequel. It was like a prequel to it was like another prequel. I don't know, it was sort of weird. I don't really understand what they're doing there. Like, again, Rogue One, also not bad, but just very safe Star Wars movie. And, so yeah, we jump ahead, and they're trying to evade the Empire, and or the First Order, and it's kind of like Leia and the rebels and everything like that. It's almost like they're being cornered by the original Empire again. And this was weird for me because I thought that the First Order was like some tiny little thing, and I didn't understand like okay, so like Leia and whatever they were like, I don't know, she was from like the planet of Alderaan, and Alderaan was destroyed, but all these other people were like part of their own planets, right? So shouldn't they all have like planetary fleets? And if the First Order is just like this one little splinter group with like one planet that they operate from, then in theory should not they be on somewhat more equal footing? Like I don't know, I didn't quite get this, but they're like evacuating the planet, and it's like, oh no, we're losing to the Empire. And right off the bat, like, this didn't resonate with me because I didn't really understand what the relative scale was between the First Order and the Rebels. Because, again, if you go back to the first movies, it's like the Empire is like the Empire. It's pretty much the whole galaxy. So the Rebels are fighting like the military force of the entire galaxy. They have Darth Vader, who's like basically a space wizard, Emperor Palpatine, another space wizard. And they can see the future and all kinds of other crazy things. Like, this is all very powerful, very meaningful. And, it all kind of makes intuitive sense. Like, you see how Emperor Palpatine must have come into control because he's at one with the Force, and he can see into people's souls, and he can shoot people with lightning and stuff like that. That's all a big deal. It all makes sense, right? It all makes sense. It's sort of, you don't need a lot of explanation. But with the First Order, I feel like, they have this, Lord Snokes. Lord Snokes is our new Emperor Palpatine, and he's just like this Sith Lord. And they don't really go much into who Lord Snokes is, or what he does, or why he's in charge of the First Order. Like, where was he when Emperor Palpatine was around? When Emperor Palpatine died, did Lord Snokes show up? Like, did he just, walk into the bureaucratic office of the First Order and be like, hello, I am your new Sith Lord? Do you apply for that position? Like, did he have to fill out a resume? I guess a lot of time has passed, but when and how did Lord Snokes get to power? Again, how big is the First Order? What's going on? What's all this? Why is the Rebel Alliance still small and they don't have ships? Have they been losing the war? And maybe they said this in the opening crawl, because I think that I was fiddling with my drink or something like that while the opening crawl was going by, so I missed a lot of it, and then I was just like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Because like I said, I almost didn't really go to the theater because I didn't really care that much in the first place. So, the movie opens up, and the whole crux of the thing is that the First Order is killing the Rebels, and, the Rebels have one ship, and the First Order has a fleet of ships, and so they're all like, all right, send in the Dreadnought, and the Dreadnought is this really cool, super big Star Destroyer with, great big cannons on it, and I thought that was pretty neat, and, pretty awesome there, and so it fires cannons on the Rebel base just as the Rebels are escaping, and then the Rebels enter hyperspace, where normally you couldn't be tracked, but then the First Order is like, but we can track them. We've developed a technology to. So then they just track the Rebels onto wherever they jump to. And then the Rebels are like, oh no, we're running out of fuel, because the ships still run on fuel. And, I guess that's significant. I don't actually know how the whole fuel thing works, because in the games, you just sort of went from place to place, and they don't really address fuel very much, for the most part. I always assumed they just ran on, I don't know, reactor power or something like that. It seems really dangerous to need fuel in space. I mean, if you ran out of fuel, you would just be dead. That wouldn't be good. Surely reactors are capable of creating more energy, right? I assume that there was always these reactors in the ships, and the reactors create energy perpetually. So I don't know, maybe there's fuel rods, but why do the ships have fuel rods that can be spent? I would understand if the ship had to, idle for a while. Maybe the ship has to idle for a while. You've got to put it in park and let its battery recharge. But then I don't understand. I don't know. I'm thinking too much about the whole engines thing. But anyway, point is, apparently these ships can run out of fuel. And so they're like, well, we can't just run forever because we'll run out of gas. And so they're all like, oh no, well, what do we do? And they're like, well, we're able to run faster than the Star Destroyers on just the impulse drive. So let's just putter our way on out of here on impulse. And so that's what they start doing, is they just kind of put the pedal down on the impulse drive and they just putter on along. And for the whole movie, it's just the Starfleet chasing their battle fleet, and their battle fleet is smaller, so it's a little bit faster. It's just putter, 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 putter. There it goes. Broom. slow speed chase action. So what happens is Leia gets shot. She gets shot and she can't command anymore. So she puts this other lady in charge, and this other lady is kind of mean a little bit. I mean, she doesn't really like do anything too mean, but she just kind of gives the impression that she's sort of mean. And the starfighter guy, he shows up and he's like, "What's the plan?" And they're like, "You don't get to know the plan, because last time you were told about a plan, you tried to carry it out, and then it didn't work so good." And this is another thing I didn't really understand. They had the fleet commander, I guess is what it was, or he was like the bomber wing commander, the fighter commander. He was the X-wing pilot from the first movie, the guy who was doing stuff with Finn. And I'm not really sure how this guy fits in with this whole thing, because, like, again, he's like a commander, but previously he was on a mission that you wouldn't send a commander on, so I guess he got promoted. And anyway, though, like, at the opening of the movie, they have this big dreadnought come in, and so he flies out there, and he's like, "Hello, I am the guy, I'm one of the main characters." And everyone's like, "Hello, main character," like, the leader of the First Order, he calls in, he's like, "Hello, main character." And then the guy's like, I'm here in your face, charging up my engines. And the guy's like, "Oh, you're gonna be sorry, I'm gonna blow up all your things." And then the main character guy's like, "Oh, but my engines are charged up." So he, like, flies his X-wing really fast over to the dreadnought, and he blows up all the dreadnought anti-aircraft guns, I guess. And like, all the other Star Destroyers are just, like, standing around, and they're like, "Oh, dreadnought, what's going on?" And they're like, "He's blowing up all of our cannons." And so they're like, "Oh, shoot. Oh, we've been fooled." And so, like, it takes them forever to respond to this. It seems like they can't, like, I think they scramble fighters while he's still doing this. But for whatever reason, they can't shoot him down, even though he's just one guy. And so he blows up all of the anti-aircraft guns on this dreadnought. And he's like, "All right, send in the bombers." So they send in the entire bomber wing to blow up this dreadnought, which, again, I assume from the way they make it sound, it's like it's their aircraft carrier. You know, if we blow up this dreadnought, you know, there's only, like, 20 of them in the galaxy or whatever, so this is a big deal. You know, we got to blow this up. So they send in their bombers, and they lose pretty much their entire bomber squadron, which, as far as I could tell, was like 10 bombers. And then one of them drops a bomb, and then that one bomb is all it takes. I mean, it's like a whole bunch of bombs, but the one of them drops a bomb payload, and that one bomb payload blows up the whole dreadnought. It just explodes. You know, I guess you blow them up in the middle in space, and it just cracks in half and kind of goes in separate directions. So, yeah, boom. Blows it all up. The armor is no match for the bomber, for the single bomb payload. So, they lose their entire bomber wing. But it wasn't really much of a bomber wing in the first place, I guess, because, I mean, like, if you think about it, it was basically like an unarmed, helpless dreadnought. Like, the commander, I was totally with the commander. He was all like, "Yeah, I mean, like, the plan worked." Like the plan, it seemed to be that the plan was, he was like, "Hey, I'll just fly up and shoot all the aircraft guns off the dreadnought, and then we'll bomb it." And I guess they agreed on this plan, and so he successfully blew up the all the turrets and everything like that. And I think that right after he blew up all the turrets, Leia was like, "I don't know, I'm losing faith in this plan." And the commander was like, "You can't just lose faith in the plan. Like, you can't send your commander on a near suicidal mission to blow up all the gun turrets, have it succeed, and then say, I don't know, the obvious no-brainer part seems really risky to me." Like, the insane not workable part was the one where the commander by himself blew up all the turrets. Like, that was the crazy part. So, yes, anyway, Leia starts to second guess the part that makes sense, and then the part that makes sense works, but just at the cost of the entire bomber wing, which again was like 10 bombers, and this is like, what if you lost a small, like what if you lost 10 bombers, but you crippled, you know, I don't know, it's just like, what if we sank an aircraft carrier, but we lost 10 bombers? Like, I don't know, why, like, this seems like a way better trade for you. But she's still mad, and she's like, "That was awful. We lost lives." And it's like, well, yeah, it's a war, you know, with, like, deadly weapons. This happens, and the commander's like, you know, the plan worked, and then Leia's like, "But people are dead, and that made me sad." So she demotes him from commander to captain. And so he's kind of mad about that, understandably, because his plan totally worked. It was super risky. They had almost no resources. Granted, they didn't have very many lives to spare, but come on, like if you're outnumbered like 10-1, and you manage to blow up like 40% of their power, it's still really good. I don't know. I like, kudos to the guy. I felt like he was justified. So anyway, though, so Leia, she gets shot. Now she can't command anymore, and there's this other lady, and she's all pissy, and she's like, I'm not telling you the plan. So the commander goes and he finds Finn, who's woken up from his injuries. He was in his back to tank, and he wakes up from the back to tank, and he's walking around. And so Finn decides that he's going to abandon ship so that he can find Rey, who's found Luke Skywalker. I was going to say Mark Hamill. He's found Luke Skywalker. He's found Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. And anyway, though, so he's going to go find Rey. And he runs into what I thought was a 12-year-old girl. And later on, I started to kind of laugh about this because I got attached to this character. And it's somewhere along the way I realized that my wife is like 5'3". She's like Mexican. She's a little brown girl. And so like it occurred to me that Finn is probably a lot taller than I am. And so like this size difference, it's one of the reasons why I probably like this girl, is because she reminded me of Claudia. She's like nerdy, but like also really proactive, and I don't know, like I like this little character. So this little Asian girl or whatever approaches Finn. She's like, "What are you doing, Finn?" And he's like, "Nothing." And she's like, "You're trying to escape, aren't you?" And he's like, "No." So she tases him, and then they have this conversation while he's tased, and they realize that they could disable the tracking on the starships for the First Order if they were able to get on board the starship somehow. The problem is the security. So they call a character, and they're like, "Oh man, do you know a way that we could get onto this ship?" And this character's like, "Oh yeah, I know a hacker. He could totally get you on board this ship, no problem." So they're like, all right, well let's get on a escape pod and let's fly to this planet, using warp speed or something, I don't know. And then we'll find this hacker, and then we'll get on the ship, and then we'll save the entire rebel fleet. And the commander's like, "That's a good plan, and I'm not gonna tell our leader because she's mean." So they all go down to this planet. It's like a gambling planet, and they kind of have this big brouhaha, and they run into a hacker. It's not the hacker they wanted. It just happens conveniently that they wind up in prison, and there's like it reminded me of this game called Breath of Fire that I used to play. I think it was like Breath of Fire 1 or Breath of Fire 3. I think it was Breath of Fire 1. I can't remember. But there was a character who was like a thief, and you run into him, and it's kind of weird because like you get arrested, and they just throw you in a jail cell, and then you're like, "Oh no, I'm trapped." And then like this guy, I think his name was Kane or something like that. Like Kane is just there in bed, and you're like, "Oh no, I really want out of prison." And then Kane just gets up and he just like opens the gate, and he's like, "Yeah, sure, here you go." And it turns out that the joke is kind of that like Kane is like he just gets himself arrested and he sleeps in prison until he's tired, and then he lets himself out, like because he's such an expert lockpicker, he's such an amazing thief. And then like the next time you meet Kane, he just joins the party. Like everybody just acts like they know him really well, even though the only interaction they had with him was like, "Oh, we met him once." I don't know. It was like that. They just like wake up. They get thrown in prison for causing this big for landing their ship on the beach. Like there's probably a starport where they're supposed to land, but instead of landing on the starport, they land on the beach. I don't know why they explain. Like I don't know why they landed on the beach if there was a starport, but they land on the beach, and then they're like the police show up, and they're like, "Did you land your ship on the beach?" And they're like, "Yes." And they're like, "That's a punishable crime. To the jail cell with you." It's not like a fine or anything like that. They don't give them like a great big ticket. They just like take them to prison. So so in jail is another hacker, not the hacker they wanted. It's a totally different hacker. And he's just like, "Yeah, I could get you out of prison and also hack the thing and stuff like that." So he just like unlocks the doors, and they're like, "Oh, cool, we found this other hacker." And I don't know, it's like weird. It's like how very lucky and how fortuitous to find this guy. Like I don't know why they did this, I guess like maybe in another draft of the script it made more sense, and maybe that guy had like a slightly different role. Like there was some interesting stuff with him where they had kind of a bait and switch, I guess, where later on it's like you think that he's gonna be in a thing, but it's not him. Anyway though, so they agree to hire this other hacker, who then goes back with them to the ship that's being attacked. And this is like in the middle of all this, Rey is training with Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. And Luke Skywalker is like, I'm no longer a Jedi. Well, I mean, I am, but I'm no longer connected to the Force, so I cannot teach you. And Rey's like, no, but you must. And so Luke Skywalker is like, well, okay. So he's like, I'll teach you 3 lessons, and then you have to go away. And Rey's like, okay. And so the first lesson, he's like, all right, do you feel the Force? And she's like, yes. And so she feels the whole Force, all the Force in the island. Then she goes to a little hole in the ground, and she's like, oh, I also feel something dark. And Luke Skywalker's like, yeah, that's the dark part of the Force. The dark part is more dry, and we don't participate in that Force. And then Rey's like, oh, but like I think that it has something I want. And then Luke Skywalker's like, ah, man, you didn't even try to resist. You just assumed it had something you wanted. And she's like, well, that's what it said. And he's like, you shouldn't have listened. And he gets all pissy and he storms off. And it turns out that Luke Skywalker, spoilers by the way, came into Kylo Ren's room when he was younger and then threatened to chop his head off with a lightsaber. And that's why Kylo Ren turned to the dark side and killed Luke Skywalker's temple. Because Luke Skywalker was like, I don't know, he seemed really evil. Like, I looked into his heart and he was just, just pretty evil. And, so I briefly considered killing him, and I wasn't gonna, but when he woke up, I had the lightsaber on and it looked really bad. So, really just crucial misunderstanding. And I wish it hadn't happened, but just, worst possible time for him to wake up, is me standing over him with the lightsaber. I blame the swoosh noise the lightsaber makes. It's pretty loud. I should have expected him to wake up when I turned it on. Man, totally dumb in hindsight. So yes, Luke Skywalker, he does this, and then there's like one other training lesson, and I can't remember even what it was. And I don't think he teaches her a third thing. I think he lies. He doesn't actually teach her 3 things. But yeah, pretty much it's kind of like the same as Yoda in a way, where Yoda doesn't really provide a lot of on-screen training to Luke Skywalker. It's kind of implied that they go through some training off-screen, I think. But, it's just sort of like Rey goes down in the hole, and she's all like, I want to know some things. And then the dark side's like, I didn't actually know anything. Like, I didn't actually have anything you wanted. I just wanted you to come down here. And so Rey's like, oh. And then she comes back out of the hole, and she's like, the dark side is super lame and disappointing. And Luke Skywalker's like, I told you not to go down there. Everything about the dark side is lame and super disappointing. Like, you think it has what you want, and you just keep going further and further, because the dark side, it's like, yeah, here's this thing. I mean, right over here. I left it in a box somewhere, maybe down in the basement. Why don't you come a little bit deeper down in here and help me look for it? I don't know. And then pretty soon you realize that the dark side doesn't have what you wanted at all, but you've already gone so far down in the basement that it would take a long time to walk back up, and so you just set up a couch and you crash down in the basement of the dark side for pretty much the rest of your natural born life. But there's a real mold problem, so it causes a lot of allergies. Your nose starts to run, you rub it a lot, it makes your nose all red, pretty soon your nose falls off. That's why everyone on the dark side looks terrible. So yes, that's how the dark side works. Anyway, Rey has a brush with the dark side. She looks around, she goes, dark side doesn't have anything. And Luke Skywalker's like, that's correct, but you also gave into it, so you suck, and I'm mad. And so Rey eventually leaves without Luke Skywalker. She's like, we need you. And Luke Skywalker's like, all I have is a laser sword. And she's like, well, I'm going then. So she goes, and because she's following a beacon, and Finn has the beacon on him, and he's on he's sneaking on to this Star Destroyer. Rey's beacon leads her directly to Star Destroyer. So she gets there in the Millennium Falcon, and then she's like, all right, I'm getting in this pod. It'll take me right towards the beacon. So it just parks her in the Star Destroyer. So Kylo Ren comes up to her and he's like, hey, Rey, how's it going? And she's just like, ah, shoot. So he's all like, must be fate. And she's like, yeah, I guess. So they go to see Lord Snoke, who again really don't know anything about Lord Snoke, but they just show up and they're like, "Hey Snoke, how's it going, bud?" And Lord Snoke's like, "I was the one who sort of caused all this to happen. It was me. And part of this, I guess I forgot about this, but Kylo Ren and Rey have a couple of moments where they're like psychically linked to each other, and Rey's like, "Oh, hi, Kylo Ren," and Kylo Ren's like, "Hi, Rey," and Rey's like, "You're really evil," and Kylo Ren's like, "No, because like, did you ask Luke Skywalker about that time he tried to kill me? I was justified at the time. I'm not so justified anymore, but you know, like I said, I got so far down on the dark side and I never found the thing that I was looking for. Like, I don't know where the box is, but I haven't given up hope yet on the box. I've given up hope on ever going out of the basement, but I've totally not given hope. I haven't given up on having that thing I want, whatever it is, yet." So Rey's like, "Well, you could always come out of the basement," and Kylo Ren's like, no. "But you could come down with me." And she's like, And so they kind of have these interactions back and forth, but they sort of like, they commiserate a little bit, where like Rey's starting to understand what the Force is and how it corrupts people, I guess, and Kylo Ren's kind of like, "I'm already lost," and she's like, "No, I mean, you don't have to be. I mean, like, you don't look totally screwed up yet. You know, you still have your looks. If you keep going at this for another, I don't know, 10, 20 years, you're going to be too far gone, but you could turn around now. You know, it's not too late." So anyway, though, Kylo Ren shows up, and they go to see Lord Snoke, and Kylo Ren's like, "Well, here's Rey." And Lord Snoke was like, "I was the one who connected your brains together. Pretty cool, right?" And so Rey's like, "Oh, well, okay." And I can't remember if Lord Snoke wanted her to submit to him. I don't think he did. I think he was just like, "Kylo Ren's gonna stab you now." And so Kylo Ren instead stabs Lord Snoke. He cuts him in half. Oh god, this very important character who I don't even know who he is. He's dead. Oh no. And I think to myself, what an insignificant thing to have happened. I don't even really understand what the First Order is. Like, maybe it's me, but maybe it's the movie, I don't know. Like, oh, the First Order, its entire planet, or multiple planets, or whatever its scope is, it has no leader now. And, yeah. So, then Finn gets captured. They get noticed, and they're captured before they can disable this thing. And so they're like, "Well, let's execute him." And the hacker that they hired, it turns out that the plan all along was that there was actually a little planet in the vicinity. And so what they were going to do is they were just actually like driving their impulse drives to this nearby planet. And then they were going to send a whole bunch of like cloaked transport ships to the planet. That was their master plan. So the commander and Finn figured this out just before touching down on this Star Destroyer. So the hacker knows about this, and the hacker's like, wait. If you let me go, I'll sell you some information. And so he just tells the First Order about the transports. And so like the transport plan is ruined, and the First Order starts blowing up all the transports. And it's kind of like, oh no, us not trusting this person who didn't tell us anything and apparently had us on, like, it looked like she really didn't have a plan. And that was the impression that she gave. And, you know, like, it would have been nice if she was just like, "Everyone hang on, and this is what's going to happen." But she didn't tell anybody until the very last minute. She was just like, "Everyone get on board the transports." Like, even as they were boarding the transports, it was not clear how this was a good plan. It looked like she was just like, "Well, if we board the transports, you know, maybe we can get away." And the commander, once again, very correctly pointed out that transports are not armed and not very fast. And he's like, "We have nowhere to go." And so, like, they had this whole mutiny, and then only after the mutiny did the commander step forward and be like, "We cloaked the transports so they wouldn't see us, and we're going to that planet." So it wasn't like a very complex plan. I don't know if particularly, I mean, like, I guess in the military these kinds of things happen, but I don't see why that had to be top secret, unless they were concerned about spies or something like that. But, you know, I don't know. Point is, though, they didn't know the plan until the worst possible time for them to know the plan. And then they had people who were captured, and they gave up that information. So the Rebel Alliance went right back to being blown up. And, I don't know, there was a big brouhaha, and some things exploded. And so then that lady who was kind of mean, she turned the cruiser around that they were in. And so she initiated warp speed and just flew it directly into Snoke's battleship. Snoke's battleship. And so this blew up Snoke's battleship, and this is important because otherwise Finn and Rey and everyone else wouldn't have been able to survive. In the ensuing chaos, they all escape from the battleship, and at one point, like, a character gets inside one of the AT-ATs, or the AT-STs, the little chicken walkers, and starts shooting at everybody. And you think it's going to be like that the hacker guy who's come back, and he's like, I've had a change of heart, but it was actually BB-8. So that's kind of that whole, like there was a little bit of a bait and switch. You thought it was going to be the hacker, but then it wasn't. The hacker kind of winds up not being all that significant of a character. Maybe he'll come back later. I don't know. So anyway, though, the few survivors managed to get down to the planet, including Finn and all our main characters and everything else like that. And then they find out that the main planet has no armaments on it, and so they send out a distress signal to other Alliance people, and they're like, hey, the First Order's here. We blew up their main battleship. We blew up one of their dreadnoughts. I mean, they still have some Star Destroyers, but, like, they're leaderless right now. Maybe someone could come in and help out. I mean, we're mad about all these, like, phenomenal victories that we've achieved with our limited resources, because we had to blow up some stuff and we lost like most of our people. But, any help would be appreciated. And so they don't get any response back. They're like, the galaxy has lost hope. And, I don't know, like I say, like, any kind of planetary fleet seems like it should have done the trick. Like, I don't know why the First Order was such a big deal. Did the First Order have a whole bunch more holdings and power that nobody could defend against, or what? Like, I don't know. So, yeah, they're just like, the galaxy has lost hope. No one will come to our aid. So they go out there and they're like, oh, well, they're gonna shoot our door down with a big cannon, big laser gun. So they all go out there to fight with the laser gun, and Finn tries to sacrifice himself by flying his ship into the laser gun, but then the little Asian girl stops him, and she's like, I love you. And then I was like, aren't you 12? And then I kind of looked over at Claudia, and I was like, you look like you could be 12. I thought in my head. I mean, she really doesn't, but, but I was like, she's little. She's little. She's brown. Okay, I see. I could see. Like, maybe if Finn were like my height, like I bet Finn's like all the way up here if I met the actor who plays the guy, and so like Claudia's all the way down here, and so they're like half each other's heights. I could see where I'd see where you get that, and and I thought like, okay, all right, maybe she's an adult, maybe she's an adult. And anyway, though, so yeah, that happens, and then Luke Skywalker shows up, and he's like, Kylo Ren, you poop face, you butthead, you dumb guy. And Kylo Ren, he's all like, oh, because he took charge. He's all like, oh, I'm so mad at Luke Skywalker. Everybody shoot him with laser cannons. And they do. And he doesn't take any damage at all. So Kylo Ren's like, I'm going to stab him with the laser sword. So he goes down, they have this big battle. And while they're battling, the Rebel Alliance gets away out the back door. They sneak on out of there and don't even pay their tabs. And they all get on board the Millennium Falcon because so many people are dead that's as much space as they need. A freighter ship. That's it. So, yeah, it turns out that the entire time Luke Skywalker was just astral projecting or force persuading or whatever it was, they actually have this in the video games. This was a trick that you used to use. It was really crappy in the video games because AI is bad enough as it is that it really doesn't benefit you to try to fool the AI most of the time. So, but I'd seen this trick in the video games. I recognized it for what it was. I was like, oh, it's like a bit of the force projection or whatever. And, so yes, so Luke Skywalker, he's like, that's good, and then he dies. No more Luke Skywalker. He's like, goodbye, Kylo Ren. And then he just like vanishes. Poof, poof. And he's actually gone. He's actually dead. So, movie ends. That's the movie. And like I say, I give it 8 out of 10 because I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed the whole movie. I didn't have any complaints while watching it or anything like that. And just like lots of action, very fast paced. The characters were endearing. Like I cared about whether or not the little Asian girl was gonna survive, especially once I realized that she reminded me of my wife, and you know, like I don't know, like there's lots of things that I like about the movie, but I don't know if I really care where the story's headed. Like, for all the things that I liked about the movie, I really wouldn't mind it as like a TV show, but when you have to make me like put on pants and go outside and you know, it's like it's winter. It was cold. I had to put on a jacket. I didn't want to go out and do that. I barely want to do that to go get groceries. Like, really? Like, I don't want to go outside and make me go outside and go see the fate of the I don't even know what's anymore. Man, like, I don't know. The movie just really hasn't gotten me hooked on its narrative. Like, the characters are good. There's a lot of elements that are really great. The animation is great. They used a lot of puppets and stuff like that for a lot of the aliens, so it all kind of had that charm that you got from the old Jim Henson type stuff. You know, there's not really anything that I could say that I would put my finger on and just be like, oh, this was bad. Like, a lot of it was really good. The chase scenes were really good. The animation was really good. Everything felt like it had a lot of weight, a lot of oomph. You know, it was all really good. Like, great production values. You know, like I say, acting was good. It's all just like a really good, competent movie. And all I can say is just that, like, I really don't know what's at stake, and I'm not sure if I really care about whether or not the Rebel Alliance survives. That's all I'm saying, you know. Whatever. I feel like the only reason why I'm rooting for the Rebel Alliance is because I guess the First Order is evil, and the Rebel Alliance is composed of people who I know, whose names I know. Like, I don't really know what the Rebel Alliance is still trying to accomplish. Back when it was like Alderaan and Leia, you know, it kind of made more sense because it was like they were blowing up planets, and I guess they still kind of are, but they sort of stopped them from doing that. And again, I don't really understand what the First Order, like, what all do they control? Like, do they control the whole galaxy? Are they still the Empire? Like, did they stop being the Empire? Is like, I don't know. I don't know, and until I know, I'm not sure that I care. And so, like, if the next movie comes out, I feel like I'm probably going to be late to see it for pretty much the same reasons. Like, it's, you know, it's like Star Wars, so it's cool, but it's like very safe Star Wars, so it's not really exploring anything new or cool or interesting. And it had some neat new things. I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like they didn't do anything. They had some ships that were kind of nifty, and you got to see, like, one of their casinos, and that was kind of, like, different, but it wasn't like it was, you know, very well traveled, very well worn. Like, this is Star Wars, you know Star Wars, this is it. Nothing out of the ordinary here. And I feel like some people like that. Some people want that out of Star Wars. They don't want to risk going down the episodes 1 through 3 road again, and that can't be blamed. Those movies were really bad, but you know, part of the thrill is kind of the setting, I feel like. And so I don't know, like the setting is there and it's being used. It's not like being badly used. It's just that it's not going into anything new about the setting, and that by itself is not a problem. I mean, they don't really need to go into anywhere new with the setting, but I just need to understand maybe everything in the context of the setting, and I would kind of be more involved in the like I would care more about who's winning the war if I knew what was at stake, you know. Like, the Empire is dead as far as I understand it, and the Rebel Alliance represents the Rebel Alliance. Like, I don't even know what planet. Like, Alderaan is gone, so who are they representing now? So, you know, I don't know. Great movie, would recommend it. You should go see it, but just, like, what can I say? As far as understanding, like, what's happening, it's kind of amorphous in a few ways. So yeah, I don't know. Had fun. Not a waste of a night out, you know. But if I have a criticism, that's what it is. So yes, thanks for joining me, everybody. I'll catch you all next time.